sports card fans. Welcome back to another episode of Two Guys, One Hobby. I'm John. That's Don. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good. It's been about a month or so since we did
this
our
might
last
be our longest
episode.
time. That's the beauty of the show, is that we don't have set deadlines. You had
Exactly. Well,
you had to
we've had
take
a lot of
care of.
things going on.
Yeah,
We've had a lot of things going on. Don, you've had some stuff with work related stuff.
right.
I had some relative minor surgery last week, so I'm just recovering from that. We just had different things going on, but the Strongsville show is coming up, so that's exciting that both of us are attending. So that should be really fun. But of course, we have a guest, as we always do here. And Don, it was your turn to pick the guest. So if you want to do a little bit of a introduction, and we'll get our guest on.
So this is a first for our channel. Our particular guest does not have a YouTube channel, but he does have an Instagram channel and an amazing collection. And I got introduced to this guy. He was interested in some of the cards I was selling, and there was quite a few he was interested in. And rather than taking photos of all this, I said, "Hey, why don't I send you a StreamYard?" And I just held the cards up like this, and so he could see them. And in the process of this, I see his background and some of the cards he's showing, and I'm like, "Wow, this guy's got a great collection." And so I made a deal with him. He purchased some cards for me, and I said, "I will give you free shipping if you come on our show." So with no further ado, our new friend Tony, TJ, is online.
How are you?
Hey guys. Hey John. Hey Dom. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is your first YouTube anything, correct? As far as sports cards go?
I think I made a Lego set with my son Wally, and we motorized it, and 30-second video, and that's about it.
Okay.
And that was about 6-7 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, maybe our third episode with all Pennsylvania guys.
We have the entire state covered then. So Don, you're out near Pittsburgh.
Right.
Tony, you're down near Philly, and I'm right in the middle of the state.
So tell us a little bit about your background with collecting, because I don't think a lot of people know you from YouTube. I'm sure a lot do from Instagram, but maybe they've never seen your face. And just
probably not my face.
Introduce you to the YouTube community.
We all have faces for radio here, so it's
yourself.
Yes. Big Mike Schmidt fan. Steve Carlton also. My grandparents and my dad used to take me to Veterans Stadium, and we used to watch the Phillies play. They weren't very good in 84, 85 when I started going to games, but still a lot of fun. Then used to go to a farmer's market called Berlin Farmer's Market, and there was a baseball card shop there. Still there. However, the owner uses it more for storage. I guess the rent's cheap. And I remember buying 1984 Don Russ, and not too many packs though, just a few. I don't remember who I picked out of it. No Mattingly, I would have remembered that. No Boggs, not even a Schmidt. Then 1985 came around. Grandparents took me back to Berlin, got some packs. Then I bought some of those starter packs, which I think folks are calling repacks now. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting some 83 Schmidt, Brett, maybe a Ripken, and then 1986 came around. Started buying the magazines, current card prices, for those who remember that. Still have a few. Beckett was also popular then, baseball card monthly, and then I went crazy. Started buying tons of 1986 tops because you couldn't find Flair or Don Russ cards here. I did see a Conseco in spring of 1986 at the farmer's market. Local card shop didn't exist in my neighborhood at that time yet, and it was the first time I saw a card that was modern for $5. Just came out, and grandparents wouldn't let me buy it, but I did get a lot of 1986 Topps cards. And I remember that set because not only did my grandparents buy it, but the first couple cards of the set was for Pete Rose setting the all-time hit record.
Yep. Yeah, he had those special
All his
cards
cards.
like they did for Hank Aaron.
Yeah, I think that was the 75 set for Hank,
Yeah.
maybe. And then started getting more into it. 1987 Flair, 88 Flair, started going back. And around that same time, my grandfather gave me half of the money needed to purchase a 1967 Mickey Mantle. That was the first vintage card I ever purchased. Don't remember the condition too well. Maybe VG, but still a Mickey Mantle.
Right.
And as both of you know, as do all your followers, Mickey Mantle was everywhere back in the 1980s. Every other cover of a magazine had Mantle. DiMaggio, Musial guys, a lot of guys we don't hear too much about outside of folks our age. So I picked up the Mick, and then I went back to 87 Flair. A lot of fun. Did a little bit of basketball, a little bit of OPG hockey. I'm a big Canadian card fan. Love my OPG cards. And the rest, a little bit of Garbage Pail Kids, which I still had them. They were really fun. And one thing I used to love doing was the sticker albums. If I don't know if you did that, I actually
the
still have
sticker,
one.
yeah.
And this is my childhood one of the few things I kept.
I remember that.
And I was looking for the Red Sox page, but I found the Phillies page pretty easily. So for folks who remember these, I had the 83 one when we lost the World Series to the Orioles. And Gooden was on the one, I think, in 85. So lot of fun.
Yeah, I used to have at least 1 or 2 years of those sticker books. Those were the few baseball card items that somehow got thrown away. I don't know where they are. I've kept everything else, but those I know I had at least 1, if not 2, sticker books. Probably not complete, but I remember peeling them off, putting them in the book, and trying to complete. It seemed that those foil all-stars were the harder ones to find, or something like that. They almost like not quite inserts or short prints, but they were harder to find. So when you got a foil one, that was really cool, if I remember correctly. That's interesting, though, that you mentioned early on, I think within 80, 85 or 86, that you couldn't find any Flair cards because they were produced down in Philly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but it sounded like by maybe 87 and 88, at least where you lived there, you found some more supply, or they were easy to find?
No, see, it was a junk wax era. It started, but even living in Philadelphia, we could not find Flair in 85, 86.
Wow.
Unusual. Distribution, maybe I was going to the wrong 7-Elevens, not quite sure, but nah, they were premium. In fact, I had an easier time finding 85 Don Russ than I did 85 Flair. And then once 87 came around, you were able to find everything.
I remember, though, in central Pennsylvania, I was down in, and it was around probably 87, because I think they had just come out. My family and I went down to Gettysburg to tour the battlefields and all that stuff, and stopped by a card shop, and because I couldn't find any 87 Fleer, and they had some 87 Fleer packs. I didn't have much money on me on the time. I think I bought just 2-3 packs or something like that, and I thought that was great because, hey, I finally found some 87 Flair. I don't think I got any of the big name players or anything like that, because I seem to recall, I'm like, oh, I finally found some, and I got duds or whatever. But so yeah, I don't have too many 87 Flairs in my collection from opening packs. Yeah.
If you want some 87 Flair, I can send you some. I still have a ton of them.
He's away Boggs Fleer cards. He doesn't have any.
Yeah.
Before we started, I did look for the Boggs in my collection, and I have a few. Obviously, you have them all, but I have a couple Sport Flicks and ones that came in the set. Sets like 85 Don Russ and 87 Flair and some others. But
there are a couple. I think there's one of the Sport Flicks that I'm missing. And it's because there was a certain year, is either 86 or 87, that when they printed them, one of them had an 86 copyright date and another one had an 87 copyright date. And the one year he had a solo card and then two other like multiplayer cards or something. And each one of them has the different copyright date variation. And I think one of them I'm missing, and it's hard on eBay because they're nickel cards,
not worth much,
right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't even bother scanning the back of them. And when they do, it may not be good because the copyright date's like this big. So sometimes you can't even tell. So is it a rare card? I don't think it's a rare error, but you just can't find it because no one puts those cards up for sale. And when they do, you can't tell which version it is. So it's little things like that in my collection that are missing in some cases. Yeah. So, okay. So you started talking with, about when you were younger, starting off in the, mid to late 80s. I'm assuming from just talking previously before getting on here that there were maybe lulls in your collecting experience, that when you were more active, less active, and then maybe you can talk about how you got into, you mentioned your first Mickey Mantle. Looking in the background there, and from what Dawn explained and what I could see on your Instagram, you have a lot of amazing vintage cards. So maybe you can talk about how you transitioned from that junk wax era, the newer releases, to building a great vintage collection.
Sure. So the vintage collection started in, I would say, 1988. My father took me to the National. It was at Trop World, Atlantic City. And saved us some money, birthday money. And my grandparents gave me a couple dollars as my father. And we went to a couple tables, and maybe the first third of the tables, came across a 1952 Topps Willie Mays. My father always talked about Willie Mays being the best player and Hank Aaron being the second best, Mantle third, Clemente fourth, just, in any given day. But that's generally when he talked about the outfielders. And the same dealer had a 1967 Tom Seaver, a 1965 Steve Carlton, a 1984 Roger Clemens Flair Update, and a 1984 Flair Update Dwight Gooden. So we did the negotiations, and it turns out I can buy the Willie Mays, which was beautiful from what I can remember, or I can get the four other cards: the Clemens, the Gooden, the Carlton, Philly guy, and the Seaver. And I would have saved a couple of dollars. So instead of getting the Willie Mays, I got the Seaver and the rest. Had that, and then I held that card for 15 years or so. But I'll get into how Mr. Mint got me. But so went right back to the junk wax at that show. My father stood in line with me a little bit, but then I wandered off. We got an autograph by Ted Williams, Steve Carlton autograph, which I still have in my collection. So that was the 88 National. Then I went to the 1989 500, the Living 500 Home Run Show. That was in Atlantic City also. And January, wasn't snowing at that time, but I was able to see nice big print of all the Living 500 home run hitters. I believe there was 11 of them. Williams on one end, and the other end was Ernie Banks, maybe, I forget. But Mantle and the other guys were dead center, and didn't get that. I was too busy looking for 87 Flair wax and rack packs and everything else. But when I look back at the price guides and the Beckett's and everything, that's what was being pushed. Not on purpose. It's just those were the guys I was watching. Will Clark, Roger Clemens. So, I get it. Canseco was everywhere. He was about to do 40-40. Yeah. And then picked up some cards, nothing vintage or anything. Then I kept on buying. And then I got into basketball. I was lucky enough to get an 87, 88 Flair basketball set, second year, for about $150 around that time. The 86, 87 was going for about $400 and change, but I wanted to get the second set. Then the fellow who sold it to my father said, look, why don't you get your son the second year, because it's about half the print run, supposedly, of the first year, which is true, but, kind of boring cards compared to the 86 Flair set. But they bought more wax, more 89, 90, prospecting, swing and missing, name it, Sam Horn, Kevin Moss, Brian Taylor, much like folks a little bit older than me did with Ron Kittle and Karkovice and those fellas. Then a couple things happened, which really got me sour. We know what happened to Gooden.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is the card. David Robinson. I love this card. Pulled it out of the pack. Turns out he had a Flair rookie sensation, which kind of made this one not that desirable. So in the Beckett's, my cards started going down. Then this happened. Say $20 for this. It's a Shaquille O'Neal Stadium Club.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Beautiful card.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the card, paid $20 for it at my LCS. And had the card for about a month or so. And then the new Beckett comes out, and they have something called a beam team. What's a beam team? It's another insert, like a rookie sensation that they had in baseball, and the David Robinson I went through. And then being in high school and going through the shack, I had enough. I basically just washed my hands of cards. It was so by late 92, early 93, I had enough. Put everything away and started concentrating on other things that high schoolers do, which you can imagine. But
so was it? I'm sorry. Was it that some of those cards had gone down in price, or that there were more cards being made that you're like, wait a minute, I thought this was the only Shaq or this was the only David Robinson, and now wait a minute, now there's another one and another one and another one. Was what you had, or was it the price fluctuation that turned you off?
Yeah, I became a 15-year-old old man, curmudgeon. I didn't like the inserts. I didn't like the parallels. I didn't like all the numerous stuff coming out. I didn't like the cards were getting glossier, shiny. It was getting too confusing.
Gotcha.
When you opened up a magazine, you would have this many pages for vintage, and then for modern, it would be like triple the size.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
But just saving $20. Being 14-year-old, I got a job in Super Fresh, or 15, maybe 16. Got a job in Super Fresh, saved up $20 for that, and I had to negotiate down from the dealer wanted 25, and then it just broke me, And little did I know it was going to be a foreshadowing of what was to come.
Even more. How many years were in between this period in high school till you got back into the hobby?
Mm-hmm. Sorry?
I said, how many years was it in between?
It was about 25 years.
Wow.
Okay.
But I did have a couple times where I tried to get pulled back in. So in my senior year in high school, a friend of mine needed money for beer. And he said, well, look, I got 2 cards. I know you don't collect cards anymore, but, he knew about it. And he wanted to get a couple 40s and some Zima. And he said, well, here, you can take these.
Oh.
Now,
I'll get this. Yeah.
I just had to grade it recently. 54 Aaron, 55, excuse me. And this too.
Oh, jeez.
And he wanted $20.
Like, were they his parents or?
No idea. I didn't ask. I didn't ask.
He was roughly your age, right?
Yeah, same age as me.
Yeah.
Yeah, same age. And he wanted $20, and he says, "I'll sell you these for 20, and I'll give you a couple bottles." Sure, why not? So I got 2 nice cards, and a couple bottles of beer, and then that was it. Then in 2002 or 3, started to get pulled back a little bit into it. I was somewhere. I saw an SMR price guide magazine. Pretty good articles. I even buy the old ones now. And I went to a baseball card show at the Philadelphia Convention Center and bought an 85 Rack Pack box online baseball card kid who's no longer around, but he was famous for, at that time, famous for putting out a magazine with all the different cards, sets, and what the wax packs look like. And then he was at the show and Mr. Mint was at the show. And I just heard about grading around the same time too. And I brought my Seaver with me. And I was going to get the Seaver graded. PSA was there. I knew that they were the place to get graded, at that time. And I just didn't feel comfortable giving my card to someone else and them taking it. I don't know if I was going to get the same card back. So instead, I just walked around still with my brother, and I ran into Mr. Mint. I remember the articles, the big advertisement, the stacks of hundreds he used to put in his hands. So I sold him that card, along with the Ricky Henderson rookie, an 84 update Clemens, an 87, 88 duplicate I had of the Michael Jordan card. And I got taken advantage of, but I was an uninformed buyer. I wasn't checking prices or anything. It just I could have, if I would have used the money and bought Microsoft stock or Apple stock, I would have been in something.
Yeah.
I didn't do that though. But it is what it is. You live and learn. Also, at the same time, I bought my first Beckett slab, a BCCG.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was a 10 grade, 9 or 10, and it was the Michael Jordan 86 Fleer. And so I bought it on eBay. I'm like, I could buy cards on eBay. So I bought that. It arrived to my house. It looked more like a mid-grade card.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out why. So I just got sick of it, and I sold it. So if I go on my eBay page and I look at my feedback, I can still see that sale for $500 or so I got for it.
Well, huh.
Yeah, I wish I still had that card now.
Well, I mean, but then again, it BCCG, it very well, who knows, could have been a faked card. I mean, that slab back then, I don't know, but
I didn't think about that. I like that. It was a fake.
Well, we're here to give not free, but advice.
Yeah.
I
like that. Yeah. So then 2017 or so, 2018 actually, my son came home from Target. My wife took him there to his mom, and he brought home a set of baseball cards, 2017 tops. And a couple packs, soccer packs, football packs, baseball packs, Star Wars packs. Now, I was a big Star Wars guy growing up. And because while I was out of this hobby, I got into Lego. And I got pretty big. The kids were doing it. I was doing it. I was helping them build. I became a forum admin for a website called brickpicker.com. They're still around, and people were buying Lego to make money. I was buying Lego to build.
Yeah, right.
And one time I got an email from a nice lady who wrote articles for the BBC, and she interviewed me for about Lego. And if you read the article, it says the number of sets I have, but just add a 1 in front of it. I didn't want my wife to know how many sets that we actually had. But it was interesting because I saw what the influencers did. The Forbes did an article on how Lego is like gold. Then before you know it, YouTube channels started popping up about Lego a lot. And it wasn't just about building. Yeah, you had the reviews. It was about how you can make money doing Lego. So going into those, local Target, wanted to buy some sets for my kids. And then I'm realizing I'm buying 2 of one set, one to build, one to open. And then the guy next to me is buying 5 of one set, 10 of one set. It was just so I just got out of it. It just took the fun out of it.
Yeah, card collecting world. You got the collectors, which would be the builders, and then you got the flippers, which sounds like that's what they were in the Lego world as well. Flippers.
Yeah.
And you saw that during COVID with the blaster boxes and hanger boxes. These people didn't want to buy them to open them; they wanted to buy them to resell them.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be that type of person. I mean, capitalism's great, but that's just not me. So also around the same time, I started getting into watches, when they were affordable as any watch could be, made by Rolex or those brands, Tudor. And same thing happened in 2016. Rolex made a Daytona model, which was a refresh. All the websites got in on it. They started to report on it. And before you know it, the influencers got into the watch world. And a lot of the popular websites that focused on watches, they were being bombarded with posts about, how could you flip a buck? How much is this worth? Should I buy this? Should I give a stupid nickname to a watch? And will it be worth more? So then that exploded. Watches that were going for $5,000 on the secondary market might have retailed for $6,000. So you get a $6,000 watch for $5,000 on the secondary market, whether it's new or used, and that watch was now going for $10,000. The Daytona was going $11,000. It opened on the secondary market at $17,000, went up to $50,000 during COVID. Then it fell back down to I think it's about $28,000 now. Still, now MSRP might be about $14,000, but it's just nuts. So got out of that. It's just because I bought them not to flip. I bought them because it's something I thought was nice. It's a watch.
Sounds like you have that collector mentality that we have. That you
or
enjoy. It's for the enjoyment, not for the value. Or
The only difference was I wasn't buying 100 slabs of like watches because of the price, but it was still just the enjoyment factor. Exactly, and so also got into a little bit of vintage toys from my childhood, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, focused more on the prototype items. And some of the rare things, like if you ever watch Star Wars, those little tin sand people called Jawa.
Oh yeah.
So I had the vinyl cape Jawa sealed in the middle card. I had a Kenner sand crawler prototype vehicle with the remote, all graded, everything, and picked that up. And I started buying this in the 1990s and also 2000s, 10s. So pennies on the dollar compared to what they go for now. So in 2018, my son got me back in the cards. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Let's go check them out. Obviously, I start with Steve Carlton and Mike Schmidt. And I'm looking at the price, and eBay sending me these emails saying you get rebates and you get eBay bucks.
Yep.
And on top of the eBay bucks, I was getting coupons off. So I bought I started with Schmidt. I bought a 1973 OPC rookie card, very nice grade for $375. After the coupon, picked up a 1965 Carlton. For some reason, Carlton is my favorite Phillies pitcher of all time. But I always had this thing going back to when I was 8 years old. I liked Carlton in the Cardinals jersey. I was a Musial fan in the 80s. Never saw him play, but I heard so much about him and Bob Gibson. And like, wow, okay. Carlton, he wasn't a Philly, but it was like something odd. It was like an oddball thing to me. So I picked up all of his cards. And I didn't want to get the Topps cards, though, because they were going for a little bit of money. So I concentrated on the OPC cards of Carlton. So 65 Topps, obviously. 67 OPG Carlton, 68, 69, 70. When I couldn't get OPG, I got tops, and the OPG cards were, like I said, going for about half the price of the tops cards in investor grade. And picked up them, and then picked up the rest of Schmidt. But I only wanted to get cards that were made from 1980 and earlier. I didn't want to go for any of the new stuff. I just wanted to stay vintage.
Probably because of the whole, because if you were put off by cards when they started first coming out with like inserts and glossy cards, if you would have started saying, hey, well, let me get back into the modern cards around 2018 or so, you probably would have been like, what is going on? This is not like anything I remember. But at least I think with vintage, you could get more comfortable with it, I guess.
I identified with it, and just with the whole junk wax error, it just left the bad taste in my mouth. So yeah, 100%. So I completed those 2 player runs. Also got into a little bit of Reggie. I remember an HBO show about the 1977 Yankees, the Bronx Zoo. I read a wonderful book on it by Ed Lynn, and those 77 Yankees were crazy. In fact, I was talking to John Keating about it, and he mentioned a book that he's listening to now, or about the Finley A's, the late 60s, 70s. So they seem, and I just started that, and that's really crazy too. So I wanted to get Reggie. So I picked up a 2nd year Reggie, 3rd year, 4th year, left it at that. It was just, too much. So I got back out, and then COVID hit. I'm seeing all these prices falling in cards. It's like the stock market. It was just, no one knew what was going on. I mean, you couldn't get rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? So, it's like the world stood still. So we're home, and I see a person on eBay selling a 1984 Flair update set. 18 of the cards are graded with the box. The other half comes in a binder or whatever. So I picked that up for about $600 and everything's a PSA 9 that was graded. I'm like, okay, great. Got the set that I wanted as a kid. Finally got it, and now I got the 2 other ones from when I was a kid, and then I just saw overnight the prices just started going up.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting back into anything.
Right.
But I always wanted the Reggie rookie. I wanted the Mays. I was still I'm still, wanted the 52 Mays. And I just see these cards just going crazy. So I'm watching the Reggie rookie month after month. I don't know. Let's say a near mint to mint Reggie rookie 69 tops is it's at $2,000. Then it's going to $3,000. Then I'm seeing it at $4,300, $4,500. I take a cap. I'm not. No way. My wife would kill me.
Right.
And so I just watched it. And then when 2023 came around, I saw prices started to stabilize a little bit more. A couple parents from my son's soccer team, travel soccer, they collected cards, and I got the itch again. And this time I scratched it, and I went a little bit slower in. And luckily I was getting when the prices were kind of going down, but nothing like what I saw them going for in 2018 and 19.
Yeah.
So do you have the Reggie rookie?
Yes, I do, but unfortunately, with all the lights, you can't really see it up there.
Okay.
I had Reggie run from 69 to 80. I got with Reggie, and then once I got that player run done, I started to do other player runs of guys I always wanted. I always wanted Sandy Koufax, so I started that player run, finished it. Same thing with Clemente. That's one player. I heard about him in the 1980s. I knew that Dr. Beckett loved him. saw him play. I know how he died. I remembered his life story, and I wanted to start his player run. So I started his player run. I told myself I would never buy mantle cards. I started the mantle player run.
Yeah.
With my son, we started a small Lionel Messi player run.
Right.
And just, things that I enjoy, because I remember that if it goes down in value, at least it's something I could still look at, a tangible asset that, I could, it's like a fine bottle of wine. I can savor the taste.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and the spirits.
For me, I decided to get in the absolutely worst time. I decided to build my vintage collection in the summer of 2020. Right when
I was kind of doing the same thing, John.
started to go up and up, and that's because I had these thoughts of, buying these collector grade copies of cards, if it was from the 60s, a 6 and all. And it started off okay. It wasn't too crazy because I was going after cards from the, 79, 78, 80. But as I started going back, the prices just started. I'm like, what is going on here? And it made me rethink, refocus in terms of what I wanted to collect, because there was some stuff that was just becoming way out of my price range, and still to some extent is. But no, it's interesting that you sort of got back in sort of to where you are now. You waited until the right time, until things started going down a little bit.
Little bit, yeah. I mean, we had the National in Atlantic City, and I knew people who went. They were planning for it. I had no desire to go, but just because I heard about the prices and everything. And now, that may be the last National we'll ever have in Atlantic City. So now I have to go to Cleveland.
Yeah.
So I will be taking my son, and it'll be my first National since 1988.
Oh, great. So you are going to Cleveland. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, hotel's booked. We got the airfare. Just need to buy the tickets.
Nice. Well, as we're maybe a little bit over halfway here. I usually have a trivia question or two to see if I can stump Dawn and our guest here. I do have two. I'll start off with the hardest one here. Maybe you'll get it, maybe not. I'll give you a little hint, Tony. You may actually get this one now that I've heard a little bit more of your background. Who holds the National League mark for most doubles in 1 year? Most doubles in the National League. Most doubles in 1 year.
Don.
Any guesses?
Is it a Philly?
Is it what?
Is it a Philadelphia Philly?
No.
No.
But it's another team, Tony, that you mentioned that you had some interest in.
Clemente?
No, not Clemente.
Oh.
Another team that you had mentioned that in relation to Steve Carlton.
Cardinals.
Yeah, so it's a Cardinals player.
Cam Musial.
No.
It's an old timer.
It was in 1935.
Okay.
My pre-war friends are going to be disappointed in me.
I don't know.
Okay. It's from the Cardinals. Joe Medwick.
I would never got it. I mean, I know
Joe Medwick had 64 doubles in 1935. All right. I figured that was a harder one, so I'll let that slide. Here's the second one, which I found interesting, never really thought of, but when did Topps stop putting gum in packs of cards?
Ooh.
What year? What was the last year? Let me put it that way. When was the last year that Topps put gum in packs of cards?
I wasn't collecting, so at that time, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you probably had just gotten out of one of those earlier stages that you were in. So that sort of gives you maybe an idea of the time frame.
92.
I'll give that one to you, Dawn. 92 was the first year without.
Okay.
So 1991 was the last year. So I don't know if you can recall the 91 Topps cards, but that was the last year before they went to like the white paper stock, because 1992 had a bit of a glossiness to it and a white paper stock. Then 1991 was the last one with that true cardboard feel to it.
Yeah.
And so that's when they made the transition, because I guess collectors were complaining that, hey, the gum was ruining the condition of some of the cards in the packs. And so Topps said, okay, well, we'll stop including gum starting in 1992. So 1991 was the last year. I think they did it for a commemorative heritage set later on as just like a hark back to old Topps packs, but they wrapped them in cellophane within the pack, so it wasn't just an open piece of gum. But so that's the trivia question there. 1991.
That makes sense, because I remember buying Stadium Club and first year baseball, and they didn't have the gum.
Okay.
Yeah, Stadium Club came out is it 91?
Yeah, I still have a couple of cards.
That was the Topps base set was their flagship. Yeah, I don't know if once they did those other sets like Stadium Club and others, I don't know if they included gum in any of those. I think it was just their flagship that they had gum in.
Yeah.
But if anyone else that's watching this knows anything different, would love to know in the comments. So yeah, some interesting baseball and baseball card related trivia there. So what are some of the other cards in your collection, Tony? And maybe do you have you talk about different player runs. So you had an interest in a particular player and you decided to do their run, or at least work on their run. What other focus or interest do you have with your card collections? Other players? Are there it doesn't sound like you're a set builder. So what piques your interest in terms of adding the next card in your collection and so on?
So with some help from Tony, who owns Monster Cards, great person to reach out to if you need anything. I was able to put together a 68 top set. I'm a couple cards, about 5 cards short of this 1969 set. And I started the 67 set. That's a tough one. Even with the bigger cards I had in that set, the high numbers are just unbelievable.
Yeah. So okay, so you are collecting some complete sets as well. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 60. My favorite sets are vintage basketball sets. So I don't have 61 Flair, but I have 69, 70 tops. I started the 70, 71 tops, and I have most of the 70 sets, including the 76 sets, which are like the tall boys, but they're wider, about a little bit bigger, about the size of like a SGC slab.
Okay.
Old vintage NBA cards, and it's amazing how reasonable Hall of Famers are in basketball compared to baseball. And I'm not talking about like the rookie cards or the 61 Fleers, but like cards just from the early 70s. Just fantastic players, and you're not breaking the bank on these guys.
Especially the football cards too, but basketball, sure.
Right.
Have you
for you here, Don? I want to show it to you, but I'll find it after.
You mentioned John Keating earlier, and he's from the Philly area, and I know he collects a lot of sets. Have you reached out to him to see if he has any duplicates or whatever with help with any of your sets, or because he's big in some of the 70s?
Yeah, John, I just like to talk more, just chat, talk about sports and the hobby, not so much transactions.
Okay.
How did you meet John? Did you know him before YouTube, or?
No, turns out we have a couple common friends, but no, I met John from watching YouTube content. John, I saw your first show because I liked Boggs growing up. I actually rooted for the Boston Red Sox when the Phillies teams were horrible, starting in 1986 with Clemens, a family friend, used to play for the Sox, John Marzano.
Yeah, I met. Yep.
Yeah, and in fact, just real quick, something I wanted to show you. I still have the picture of me opening this. It was a Christmas present, and 1987 ball.
Okay.
And John signed this for me.
Oh, nice.
And he got Roger Clemens to sign this.
Oh,
but
wonderful.
he forgot Boggs. Which I liked Boggs back then because we had Tony Gwynn in the National League, we had Boggs and Mattingly in the American League, but I was not a Yankees fan. So and being on the Red Sox, I could probably name pretty much all the starting lineups the Red Sox had up until 92, from 86 to 92, including their pitching staffs. You have Spike Owen as the shortstop. You know the teams.
Yeah.
And with Johnny on the Red Sox and being a family friend, I didn't, meet any of the players, but I heard some of the stories and, him and Gedman going for the catching position and then what was going on in the clubhouse a little bit. And so that's with the Red Sox. So just wanted to show you that. It's something that I have from Christmas 1987, holding the ball up. I was real happy.
Yeah.
And then I still have it. Some autographs are fading, but it's still pretty cool ball.
Yeah. You may have heard my story about the '86 World Series, where the Mets were my National League team and the Red Sox were my American League team, and they were both battling. And my mom's from New England, and it was just an emotional roller coaster, that World Series. Looking back, I probably have to admit that I wish the Red Sox would have won, even though at the time I was maybe a little bit. I knew the Mets players more because I could see them on TV. I couldn't get the Red Sox on TV in Central Pennsylvania, so I knew the players more on the Mets. So I think I was leaning a little bit more toward them winning.
Mm-hmm.
But now looking back, knowing that now I'm this huge Boggs collector, which I wasn't at the time, I probably would have said, yeah, I wish that the Red Sox would have won in '86. But Boggs still got his World Series win in '96.
And he got the ride of horse, too.
Not with the Red Sox, yeah.
Yeah, 1986 is probably the first year that I can remember the whole baseball season from start to end. 85 a little bit, but 1986 I remember pretty much everything, and then since then. So a lot of good memories of that year, including the 20 strikeout game with Clemens and Mattingly. Probably should have got MVP, but Clemens had a wonderful season. So, and Schmidt won it in the NL. So good year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So Schmidt won the National League MVP in 86.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did he also win it in 87?
80, 83, and 86, if I'm correct.
Okay. For some reason, I thought Schmidt
81.
had something in 87, but okay. Yeah. I could go. Yeah.
That's when he hit his 500th.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I knew there was something in 87.
Yeah. And he hit in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And Don Robinson may have been the pitcher, if I'm correct. Maybe.
Possibly.
Yep. I remember, didn't he do like some little
he did a little.
Yeah, like this or something when he knew it was out. Yeah. So
yeah, he used to like to shake his rear end a lot at the plate and run the bases. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about actually some of the sets that you're working on, and if you've completed. When it comes, are there any like just individual vintage cards that you've maybe not working on a player run? That again, not necessarily that you have to show off, but any particular cards that you had an interest in adding to your collection, and why, or any particular other stories?
Yeah, I like the far out stuff. I like the what if players. I like the oddball stuff. If it came with food, I'd probably love it. Like this Pete Reeser card. I mean, he's a what if player. Really great story about him. I read a couple books, and this fellow was mentioned a couple times. Smokey Joe Wood.
Okay, yeah.
And fabulous player. He made the transition to an outfielder. Played with a lot of good players. Played with Speaker. Played with Ruth. Wonderful. Then I was able to complete the Hires root beer test run. I got one card that's currently being graded, but I finished that off.
Those the ones with the tab, or was that?
Yeah, they're the ones with the tab. But the ones I have, they don't have the tab, but they came with
the test.
The tab.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have. Here's a non-test issue, but here's what the tab looks like.
Okay. Yeah.
And you just tear it off, fill out your name, and then you join their baseball club.
I thought I heard. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the design were those 56 high? Is that 1956 or
58?
58.
Yeah.
Is that the knot hole?
Yes,
right.
Which should have been the 56 Bowman.
I was going to say, yeah. Someone
yeah.
told me. I thought I heard somewhere that was supposed to be the design of 56 Bowman if they had continued. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the Burke Ross cards.
Mm.
And
which year is that one?
52.
52. Okay.
I like things that are a little bit of oversized. Here's a nice Clemente.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then started to since we all remember the 70s and 80s, 70s not so much for me, but the 80s. Nolan Ryan he wasn't well known then or followed like he is now. But I remember when he pitched in the 86 playoffs. I remember how he didn't get too much run support with the Astros. My father told me stories about the 80 NLCS when the Phillies beat the Astros. I always wanted a Ryan rookie. They were pretty cheap for the longest time. Not cheap anymore, especially if they're signed. But I started finding out, well, you got the OPG, you got the Topps, you got the Milton Bradley, and you got the Venezuelan. So I was able to get all four of those cards.
Awesome.
Yeah, and 3 of the 4 are autographed. I got 2 cards. I got the OPG and the Topps. The Topps one is autographed only by Ryan. The OPG and the Milton Bradley is autographed by Ryan and also Koosman. And then the other one is just I don't have a signature on it. I'm just lucky enough to find it.
When you acquired the cards, did they already have the signature, or did you obtain the signatures after you got the cards?
Already signed and slabbed.
Okay.
Yeah, we got that. Then the card that I should have over here, but I'll go get them real fast. This is the 2 recent big ones here. For my Clemente run, I wanted to finish the set. Sorry for the lighting and the reflection. This is the 71 OPG Clemente.
Yeah, turn, let me see the back, because I love the different color, because it's a yellow on the OPG, but it's a green for the base top.
Yeah. Here.
Yep.
Oops. How's that?
Yeah.
Can you see him?
Yep.
Yeah. So and like I'm not much into population counts or the grades or any of that, but when it comes to these sort of cards, these types of cards, the population counts influence the price. And both of those influence how easy it is to find it or how hard. So with the OPG 71, there's only about 96 graded. So who knows how many have been cracked and resubbed and everything. So it's pretty hard card to find. And this is a little bit off-centered, but this just arrived in the mail today. And again, I have to thank Tony from Monster Cards for his help on that. We were just talking, and out of the blue, he asked me, "Hey, do you need this card?" Like, yeah, yeah, I need this card. I got his Instagram DM, and I didn't even think about just writing him back. I just called him. I said, "Yes, I need it." And then one of my favorite cards for the longest time, which I had a hard time finding it, was this one here. It's the 3D Clemente.
Yeah, a lot of Clemente collectors drooled over that card that they want in their collection.
Yeah, this it took me about a good 14 months looking for it. And it's kind of an unusual card in terms of the grades. Unusual card too, because there's some with the stamping on the back of the exograph. Then there's others that are clear, like mine. But the vast majority of these cards are mid-grade to high grade, which you would expect the opposite. And then when I was priced the mail and doing the research on them, the cards have a paper back, and this is all plastic. And as I learned when Hakes came to my house to take my Star Wars toys that they auctioned off for me, the vinyl K'Challa plastic, it got 2 colored spots on it from age. And much like any kind of other plastic, they do deteriorate over time. When I was looking for the Sport Flicks Boggs, if I had any, I saw even a couple of those for the 1989 set, 88 or 89 set. They started they're like peeling apart.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, well, if like 1s and 1.5s and 2.5s are going for nearly the same price as 5s, 5s are going for nearly the same price as 7s, and 9s and 10s, like $100,000. Forget about that. Forget about even like mid-grade. So I wanted to get a grade that would be a nice combination of price and also not have the card fall apart on me if it falls or dings. So I went after, it has a little bit of, it has a light scratch on the surface, but the back is pretty nice and there's no cracks on the card. And that's the most important thing, because if you have a crack, it's just going to get worse.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. So in general, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I know you could see it maybe in some of the cards you showed, and I know on your Instagram you make a point of it, and I think you said another point that when showing cards off or when you're looking at cards, you cover up the grade. It's for you. It's not about the number, but when you go to buy a card, is there a certain eye appeal that you're looking for? Is there a certain grade level? Is it strictly on budget? How do you choose the card that you want to go after? What is like is probably budget is probably one thing, but then within that, are you super keen on centering, or is it corners, or is it only budget and you want to get the nicest looking card for the budget that you have? So how do you choose the cards?
So growing up in the 1980s, I was taught, and this was just a thing, corners. Everything is corners. We want ninja stars. And so when I got back into the hobby in 2018, I was buying off the flip. Oh, okay, this grade, it's a PSA, it's a little bit off-centered. Who cares? The corners are sharp. And then after going through that experience, and I got lucky with some of the cards, with actually most of my cards that I bought in 2018. But then when I got back in and watching what was going on in 20, 21, and 22, and when I came in 23, I started to notice about the eye appeal. Maddie C. And others on Instagram and YouTube, John, such as yourself, and Don. I started to notice the eye appeal. So hold the card back a little bit and look for the centering. And I don't need the perfect card. I don't want the perfect card. I don't want the PSA 8. I don't want the SGC 8. I'd rather put that money towards college savings for my kids. Mm-hmm. So when I watched your video about the 61 Hank Aaron, that's how I view it. I want a card that, it's like this,
that I just picked up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like this Pete Reeser and your card here. I mean, this is a 4. I'm not going to cover it up, but like the centering.
Yeah, it's a great looking card. Yep.
Yeah, it's a perfect. No, does it have a little bit of crease? Yeah, but it looks good to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I hold the card 16 inches away,
you're not going to notice if there's a little thing in one of the corners. Yeah.
No, I don't care. I'd rather use that money towards other things. That's how I'm able to buy these other cards. So I don't buy the label. I don't buy the grade. I buy the card. And that was the biggest adjustment, I think, for newer collectors, because when I got back in and I'm hearing all these influencers comparing buying sports cards to stocks and investing, and you only got to buy the top 80 percentile of the cards and you need investor grade and this, I'm like, no, I want something to enjoy. I want the cards natural. I want the cards, if a card's 70 years old, 80 years old, it should have a certain tone. It should have a certain rounded edges. It doesn't need to be perfect. I want it in its natural state.
I think a card like a 50, 60, 70-year-old card looks wrong if it's like some of these examples I've seen. I do different videos and I'll see some high grade copies of some of these cards from the 50s and 60s, like they're 8s and 9s, and to me they're like they don't look right. Like a card that old should have some wear to it. To me,
John, you're mentioning cards that are 50 years old. That card's 50 years old now.
Okay, well, 70, 80. Yeah, I'm 50. Yeah, I gotta remember.
Yeah, and I'm 48. So yeah, it's the same. So when I look at my collection, and as you could tell by my room, this is it's a combination of an office and an entertainment room. So this I have up on this case that I have right now. This is a temporary thing. This goes back under the stairs. The kids are playing in the room. They're flinging Nerf guns and Nerf balls and everything. So I keep things tucked away. Usually outside the house. I don't want to, reason to keep things around. I just don't have that luxury, living in the city. But so for something like this, I was able to bring some stuff out, even though the light reflection kind of hides things. But how I enjoy my cards, I take a look at what I have. When I'm going through my cards of 50s, and let's say Mantle, for instance, I'm not a big Mickey Mantle fan, but I have his cards. I'm going through his 53 tops, 54 Bowman, 55 Bowman, 56 tops, 52 Bowman. I love how those cards, because they're not perfect. Mm-hmm. They're at a lower grade where I was able to afford them, but there's just something about them. Saying, when my father comes over and I show my father, and I said, Dad, did you have a 55 Colfax growing up? I don't know. Was that the yellow one?
Yeah.
My dad's 78. He'll be 79 in June. Dad, how about Clemente? Did you have his rookie card? Was that like a darker color, green maybe?
Yeah.
Then I start asking him about 52. Did you have the Mays? No, but I had the Matthews. He actually remembers having the Eddie Matthews card, which is among the hardest cards. Yeah. Campanella, was that yellow too? I'm like, yeah, Dad, that was yellow. He says, wait a minute, Mays was purple, right? Like a black purple. Yeah. He said, I didn't have them, but my friend had them. Wow. He said his name. So I like talking to my father I show him the cards, and he gives me the stories about Clemente's throw, about when he saw all these former greats playing at Shad Park, Connie Mack Stadium. So, I don't need high grade cards. I just want to just be able to have them. If they look good from 12, 18 inches away to 24 feet away, I'm okay.
Well, Tony, let me just say, and I think maybe we did it in sort of like the introduction here to the show. Just hearing some of the stories and just getting a hint of some of the cards that you have, I'm going to make another push, and I'm sure the people that have been watching this video are going to comment in. Maybe some of the people from the YouTube channels or Instagram or whatever. You have the perfect starting point for creating content on YouTube. The stories that you have, even just what you just mentioned about talking with cards with your dad. And it's not necessarily about showing off cards. It's telling stories. A lot of people love stories behind cards. Anyone can show off a 61 Topps Hank Aaron. People have seen dozens of these. Oh, hey, it's cool card and stuff. But if there's a story behind it, and it sounds like you have a lot of, in addition to what you've talked about already here, some great stories behind either the cards, the players, what you heard about them, your experiences as maybe watching the Phillies and all that stuff. A lot of people encourage people to get on. It's how I just completely increased my enjoyment of the hobby. Present company with Don excluded, but no, just getting to know Don and so many others.
Good
the national experience. You mentioned you're going to the national. I go to the nationals now to hang out with fellow YouTubers that I've become friends with. The cards have become secondary. It is a great community to be involved in. I know you comment. I know you've watched some of my videos and commented and so on. But that extra. And again, not everyone is comfortable being on a camera or whatever. Some people don't even show their face and do videos. But that's my plug. That's my little push. So hopefully one day we'll see you maybe create some content showing off and talking about
video about getting a 55 Aaron and Williams for 240s and a 25.
Oh my gosh! I mean that was a great story. Yeah.
Right.
Old English too. Yeah, I remember everything. Just not to go too much longer, but it's 100% right. I seen it in the wristwatch and the Lego. It's about the relationships you make behind whatever you're collecting, and just for folks like me who got out and are getting back in or are in after 25 years of being absent, don't get involved in the hobby drama. That's what I would just recommend to people. I seen people that were excellent collectors in other hobbies, and they just allowed themselves to get consumed, and before you know it, the hobby's no longer fun, or they're just concentrating too much on the asset, or just because it's not an asset, it's an item. And when John Keating was over at my house the other week and he looked at my baseball cards, I haven't showed my baseball cards to anyone since I was 12 or 13. My wife called us dorks. I mean, it was just fun, and just keep it fun for all your viewers. I'm sure, looking at the comments for both your videos and watching the content, I don't think that's going to be a problem for your viewers. So just people just don't get intimidated by other people's collections. There's always going to be someone that has more. I mean, I've seen some cards that floored, even that recent find, I call it the Philly area find.
Yeah, the Philly area find. That was just
I saw a couple pictures of the cards raw, and now seeing them graded, it's just fun because it's going into collectors' hands, right. And they came from father and son duo. Yeah, so just stay out of the drama and just have fun.
No, that's very well said.
Make connections.
I agree more with everything you said, and just how I found you. We all think the best collections are on YouTube, and that's not true. There's so many of you guys out there that have awesome collections, and was glad to get to know you, and just wanted to introduce you to some more people by having you on here. And thanks for sharing all your stories with us.
Yep. We appreciate
Thank
you
you for
having
having me.
being on. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, for those who have followed up to this point, thank you. I will have Tony. I won't put your. They can look you up on YouTube, but since you at least at this point only have a couple non-sports related videos on there, I will put your Instagram if that's okay. So if you're on Instagram, you can check out Tony's page. He shows off some of his cards in his collection, and yeah, send some more encouragement his way to create content on YouTube. We'll see if it works or not. And with that, hey, we appreciate all of you watching, and until next time, we'll see you.
Hey guys.
Cool.